Hi, I'm Camilla.
And I'm Kang, and we are the
5
5 resellers.
And today we are here to talk to you about some bread and butter brands, how to find them, how to sell them, what to look for. This is a reselling term that means, items that you can find pretty easily when you're out at thrift stores, garage sales, wherever you source your items, and that they sell pretty consistently, but that they don't sell for a really high price. So these are items that for us, we would define it as they sell usually between $15 and $20.
Yeah.
So with the cost of goods that we put in, so we usually spend about $1 to $3 on each item. $15 or $20 is a great profit margin for us. So we are willing to pick up these items and consider them kind of the foundation of our business. So they keep the money rolling in so that, when we do find these really high dollar gems, we have, a business that is kind of keeps going. These brands and the strategies that we're talking about in this video are great places to start if you are new to reselling. So if you're brand new to reselling and you're thinking, I want to pick up some items for really cheap that I could make some money on, but don't necessarily want to spend a lot or don't necessarily want to, you're not ready to learn this huge long list of brands that you've never heard of before. These are some brands that you may have heard of before. You might even have them in your own closet, so you can make some money that way. But these are great places to start.
And if you're just starting off, we don't really recommend paying more than $4 or $5 for these type of items. If the brands that you hear are substantial or very well made, then maybe you could pay up a little bit. But these brands that we're going to talk about here are generally, like Camilla said, going to sell between $15 and $20. So it doesn't really make sense to pay more than $5 for these items.
But before we get into specific brands that we recommend, we wanted to give some parameters of things that we look for in each of these brands so that, we're not picking up every single item that we find within these brands, but we're looking for specific things that make it a good buy. So I have 3 conditions for picking up items within these quote unquote bread and butter brands. So the first is a quality material. So that means, materials like cashmere, wool, silk, linen. So these really nice fabrics that you might, if you're at the retail store, those items would cost more because the material that they're made of just is nicer.
Right.
So we always look for those things. So you want to check the material tag to see what the item is actually made of. And often synthetic fibers, so fibers like polyester, nylon, rayon, those are often lower quality materials. The item might still be good, but you're better off going with those higher quality materials because people will sometimes be searching for that specific item.
And when it comes to actually thrifting or going out to source, you want to feel these type of materials. So cashmere feels really nice in the hands and you just want to touch it and then make sure that you're looking at the tag, see what the content of it, the percentage of cashmere or Angora or whatever it might be. And you'll get a lot better as you go. So if you're still trying to figure that out, then it just really takes a lot of practice. And cashmere is like cashmere, coincidence?
And then the next qualification is an on-trend style. So for many brands, they've been around for a while. And so trends come and go, and you don't want to pick up something that you would never see someone wearing on the street nowadays, that looks kind of dated. And you know what that is. You know what that is for, your town, all of that. So just make sure that you're picking up things that you could see someone like you or someone, younger than you wearing.
Yeah, okay, so Camilla is totally the person within our reselling business that knows about the trend styles. So I defer to her usually. Sometimes I pick up some really wacky things. Sometimes it works, but if you're going with, tried and true bread and butter type items, you really want to stick to current styles.
Yeah, and if you don't feel like you have a good sense of what's a current style, go out and people watch for a while. Just look at what people are wearing, look at the styles that they have on, go to a park, an airport, something like that. Just look and see what people are wearing.
Yeah, it's also a fun hobby, people watching.
Yeah. The last qualification is that the item needs to be in excellent condition. So with these bread and butter items, they're already kind of lower value, selling for $15 to $20. And so if there's any kind of stain, hole, pilling, shrinking. So you can tell that like if it's wool, when you stretch it, you can kind of hear like a scritchy sound. So any of those things or any kind of other flaw that you see, you don't want to pick that up because it's going to lower the value to where you aren't going to make enough money that it's going to make your work worth it.
So that definitely takes diligence. You want to be sure before you leave the thrift store or wherever you're sourcing, just, once over, twice over if you have the time, and make sure that you don't have any buyer's remorse, right? Come home, you find it, and then it's like, oh, I've lost this money. Sure, you might be able to sell it, but at that point, it might not be worth it. So the first brand we want to talk about is Torrid. And like Camilla mentioned before, pretty much all of these brands, $15 to $20 is where we like to price it because we are often finding these for less than $2, at the bins or at an outlet store. And what ends up happening is that it sells fast and, we consistently get about $20 for it. So that profit makes sense to us to price it at that point. You often find that some people want to try to get more, but really think that that range of $15 to $20 in most cases for most Torrid pieces is just going to be the right price.
Yeah, so we've sold a lot of Torrid tops. We've sold some Torrid overalls. We've sold a Torrid dress, just one. But it's really based on what we can find. And we find Torrid pretty often. And what's nice about Torrid is that each item has an item ID. So you can look at that number and then you can find the exact name of the item and then you can put that in your title, which we think helps sell our Torrid very quickly because people know, they kind of see it online, it's sold out, they want that item, they search the same thing, our listing comes up. That's definitely another thing to know about some of these bread and butter items is that some of them, and this is true for a lot of brands, if they have that item number, you really want to look it up to see if you can find that style name. That will help it sell.
Okay, so our second brand is Athleta.
So Athleta is a brand underneath the Gap label. So Gap owns a couple different stores, and Athleta is one of the highest ones that they sell, at least in terms of retained secondhand value. So Athleta is similar to Lululemon in that it's, an athletic wear brand. They have a lot of leggings, they have a lot of workout tops, workout pants, all sorts of things like that. They even have some kind of like hybrid workout items. So we pick it up pretty often, we find it pretty often, and again, it usually sells for us between $15 to $25 depending on the item. So that item, Athleta will also have a date in there, and you can look up, try to find the style name for it. But we love picking up Athleta because the items are really well made and people know that they can trust that brand. And they often have like dupes of Lululemon. So sometimes those will sell pretty well too because they sell for about half the prices of Lululemon, leggings would.
The pieces that we generally find that are from the brand Athleta are pretty plain, pretty simple, but we pick it up and, I'm actually sometimes surprised that they sell so well. But again, between $15 and $20, some of the better Athleta pieces we've sold for $25. So, something to think about when you're finding, just these simple items. They still are worth a lot. Number 3, JJill.
So JJill is one of our favorite brands to pick up because they have a lot of items that are linen or wool or cashmere. And those are really the only ones that we pick up from JJill, at least anymore. We made some mistakes picking up, a lot of different kinds of JJill. But those items and those quality fabrics, people look for them online because JJill is known for their quality in especially those kind of items. So we love picking up those items, and especially in larger sizes. Those seem to go out of our store much faster than the smaller sizes. So if you see that around in your thrift stores or if you have any in your closet, consider listing them.
Number 4, Pink by Victoria's Secret. I'm often surprised by how much these retail for, and the resale value, pretty decent. And so we continue to pick it up.
Yeah, so Victoria's Secret is the overarching brand, but within Victoria's Secret, there's a brand called Pink, and they make a lot of sweatshirts, sweatpants, tops, things like that. They're kind of like spirit wear in some ways. Like I would describe it as like spirited, type of items, even if it doesn't necessarily have a team or a brand on there other than the brand itself. But it's sort of like you're representing the brand because so many things have a spell out of the word pink on them. And those are the ones that you definitely want to be on the lookout for. So if the word pink is spelled out on them, you can use the keyword spell out and that will attract buyers to your listing,
Mm-hmm.
as well as items that have sequins on them.
Yeah.
Especially within this brand, that seems to be what people are looking for. You want to be on the lookout for those two things on any of these items, and anything that you think is very loud or unique. Those are things that help this brand really sell. And we find that it sells very quickly as long as we have it priced, in a good range. So again, this one sells closer to that 15 mark, but it does sell pretty quickly for us.
Just a quick note about Victoria's Secret in general. When we find Victoria's Secret, we often pick it up anyway, and we'll often pick up Pink by Victoria's Secret, even though it sells for only about $15 because it sells so fast for us. Number 5, a well-known shoe brand, Crocs.
Crocs sell really well for us, and most Crocs that we pick up sell for about $20, but there are some Crocs that you'll want to look up because they can sell for even more than that.
Yeah.
I saw someone post an Instagram today and they had sold a pair of Crocs for like $80.
Some crazy amounts, for sure.
Yeah, so depending on the style and depending on how good of condition they are, you can get even more than $20, but that's usually what we price the ones that we find for, unless they're really an interesting style. Again, like all these other brands, these sell very quickly for us. They are a sought after brand online. I mean, you would be surprised at how much Crocs cost new. They come in all different styles, so it's not just the classic kinds that, look like kind of like clogs with some holes in them. There are other types, other styles, and we've sold a lot of Croc flats, some, sandals, and those have all sold really well for us.
And one of the best things we love about Crocs is that when we go to the bins and we find them, they're so light. So they're really cheap to buy from the bins because it's by weight. And so the Goodwill outlet, the ones that we go to, it just makes sense to pick them up because they're so light, and we'll sell them easily for at least $20. So it's pretty much a no-brainer. And the very last note is that if you ever see those little charms on the kids' shoes, you should pick those up too. Even if you don't pick up the kids' shoes themselves, sometimes it's worth taking those little charms off and kind of lotting them up and selling those as separate, a listing separately. So think about that too.
Because you would be surprised at how much those charms cost new.
Yeah.
We were definitely surprised when we looked up how much they cost just to buy them. It's crazy.
Now we've got some brands that our friends sent us, and these are some pretty good ones that we sometimes find they're not as, bread and butter-ish for us as we'd like, but for them, depending on where you source your items, what part of the US you're in, or what part of the world you're in, maybe you can find these as well. This brand here is Bionic. We, find it often enough, and we love selling Bionic. It's got a great sell-through rate, and when we find it, we're usually pretty excited. The thing that trips us up sometimes is that we have to find the size tag. You always want to look for that size tag because surprisingly, it rubs off or it just gets peeled off very easily.
It's mostly because Bionics are comfort shoes that they sell so well, so people know that these are shoes that they can wear, be comfortable in, so people have some brand loyalty to them. And again, they're expensive new. They're close to $100 to get a new pair, so if you can sell them for $20, $25, that's great. Someone gets a great deal on some shoes.
The next one is LL Bean. We don't find a whole lot of LL Bean, and we're usually pretty picky about it. But if you can find it cheap enough, definitely pick this up because we will often sell it for $15, $20, and a lot of substantial jackets or very good sweaters will sell for a lot more too.
Yeah. So another brand that was sent in to us by a lot of people was the North Face. Again, this is one we don't find very often. We live in Texas, so we don't find a lot of coats and things like that because people don't really need them here. The North Face is a great brand to be on the lookout for. We've sold North Face shirts for about $15. We've just sold some hiking boots by that brand for a lot more. So depending on the item, depends on how much you can sell it for. So you'll want to look up that item that you have to see, how much it's going for on eBay or on Poshmark, and how much, not just what things are listed for, but how much it is actually sold for.
And really, when it comes to bread and butter items, it's actually very location dependent because people in the north are finding the North Face quite a lot more than we are. Definitely dependent on your location, but if you find it and it's a great price, pick it up. The next one is a brand that we can depend on, Harley Davidson. We pick up a wide variety of items by Harley. They make boots, shirts, jackets, hats, all those things. You definitely want to look them up. If it has a big graphic on the shirt or jacket, all the better. Definitely want to be mindful of all that. People love representing Harley Davidson. Okay, the next one is Nike. I think everyone finds Nike pretty much any and everywhere they go. So definitely be on the lookout for Nike. Definitely look up the style, because when it comes to the shoes, you can look up the styles. On the tongue, you can find the style number, easy to look up. It'll tell you usually what the name of the style is when you search it up on eBay or wherever. When it comes to all of their other clothing, you know, people recognize the brand. If you find it cheap enough, you can pretty much depend that it will sell for at least $15.
So the last one that people sent in was Free People. And this is one that we often will sell for about $20. And especially kind of the tops and some of the dresses will sell right around that price point. It doesn't sell very quickly for us, but it does sell.
Definitely a great filler brand. We keep it in our closet. People will sometimes, you know, just come by and surprisingly pick them up once in a while. So it's pretty good for us.
Okay, so the last tip we have for selling bread and butter items is really at the point of buying them. So we named a lot of different brands today, but when you are outsourcing, you need to have the tools to make a good decision before you buy the item. And one of those key tools when it comes to bread and butter items is the sell-through rate. So a sell-through rate is the percentage of items that have sold within a given period compared to total items listed. Let's say you look up Free People top on eBay. There are 100 listed, currently available. That's your competition basically. You look at what price it's there, and then you go and you toggle to see just the sold listings. And let's say there are 50 sold listings. That means it's a 50% sell-through rate for 90 days because eBay shows you the past 90 days sold listings. So that means that within 90 days, you have a 50% chance of selling that item if you have it priced comparably to the current ones listed. So when you're looking at bread and butter items in the thrift store, you're deciding if you're going to pick up a certain brand, the sell-through rate is really what you want to be paying attention to. Because like we already said, these brands will sell for around $15 to $20. But there's a big difference between selling for $15 within a day versus selling for $15 in 300 days.
Yeah.
If you're on Poshmark, that means that you've shared that item however many times. Let's say you share 3 times a day, you shared that item 900 times. That's a lot of your time that you're putting into this item that's only selling for $15. So the sooner you can have that item sell, the better it's going to be for your business because you can reinvest that money. And like right now, we're going through a period of inflation. So $15 today is worth more than $15 in 300 days. So that's something that you really want to keep in mind when you're picking up these brands. The most important thing that you're looking at in terms of bread and butter items, because they already have that kind of basic selling price, you really want to be looking at the sell-through rate for them.
And 50% sell-through rate is about the lowest that we'll tolerate. The other thing that we want to add is that when you look at the pricing of these type of, 50% chances, you can always lower the price and, increase the chance that you might sell it, but then you're kind of cutting into your profit. And that's a business decision that you have to make. And as you continue to have that business mindset and you're training that business brain, you'll find that, if it's worth your time, then you can price it under what everyone else is pricing and you can sell it even faster. And that's a skill that you have to hone over time.
So thank you for watching this video. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and leave a comment down below if you have a bread and butter brand that you think that we missed, because the more knowledge, the better. So share some of your knowledge down in the comments. We'd love to build a community of learning down there. And speaking of a community of learning, we'd love to have you as part of our community. So if you like this video, consider subscribing if you aren't already. And if you are, thank you. We love having you here for all of these videos. We love our community so much. So we will see you in the next one.
See you later.
Bye.